Salam and greetings, my dear ones, and welcome to you. Alaikum salam. It is very nice to be here once again to continue our conversation and to introduce for you some further subjects that are very pertinent and relevant to the world in which you live today. Many things are in a process of evolution and change. And of course, this is not necessarily something that is comfortable or even desirable in some areas. Now, as always, when I bring you information, I wish to empower you, not to instill concerns and fears, and therefore have you going home this night full of worry. However, the way in which your world is increasingly changing has enough concern in it for you to be informed, to make supportive choices for yourselves in your lives. And although you may feel that so much that is happening is far bigger than you and far more powerful than anything you may do or change, I wish to remind you, dear hearts, that you are very powerful in and of yourselves, both collectively and individually. How you choose to live, how you choose to respond to this world around you is having a direct impact upon your experience of life. Take, for instance, today and how you are feeling, what your life has asked of you, what you have needed to do from moment to moment, and everything you've encountered, you've made a choice about. You have consciously, unconsciously taken action, taken steps that have asked of you to make a selection, to respond to energy which creates more energy, that which truly supports you or that which, of course, takes from you. But you have this consciousness, this choice, that is able to deeply discern and learn to gauge your surroundings and bring more of you forward. Now, this period of change, this period of human growth and development is inviting more of you to be here in this world. This is no longer a time of disappearing into yourself, and therefore your process is yours and yours alone. It is instead a time to really focus yourself and your energy and witness the impact you are able to have. So again, every day in your own life, the smallest choices, from what you eat, how you sleep, what you engage with, what you do, what you are saying, the kinds of interactions, conversations you are having, are all giving you information about yourself. It is really telling you a direct, what you might call feedback about yourself and this world, and just how malleable, pliable it really is, how responsive it is to you, how reactive it is to you. And of course you know all about that because you're often quite reactive to each other, right? Not always responsive. But it is very important to understand that at this time it is vital for you to know how to discern energy and how to understand the kind of energy that is growing and progressing and therefore supporting you, and the kind of energy that is pulling you backward, pulling you into the past, or simply pulling out your energy, disengaging and empowering you, or disempowering you. So I want you to consider for a moment the obvious, which is that what you might call good energy is going to generate good energy, and that which is considered negative is going to be detrimental to you. However, it is important to know both the good and the negative inside of yourselves, and your responses, your reactions to this. And as much as possible, without judgment or self-criticism, be aware of this internal process. Now, the reasons for this are very, very important. You need, and you are really going to need, to know and have this basis, this foundation within yourself to draw from. Why? Because your ability to discern good energy, good information, negative information is crucial. Absolutely important if you are to navigate your way through increasing fields of information, increasing experiences and events that have indirect and direct impact on your life and on yourself. Now, all the time you are continually bombarded with information, even if you don't want it. And the only way not to get it is probably to go out into nature, where there are no telephones, computers, there are no cell coverages. Is this how you say?
That's pretty good.
All right. No internet, no radio. And it is important to understand that it is increasingly vital that you are learning how to take care of your energy, that you are understanding more and more the electromagnetic effects upon your biosystem. Now, the biosystem within your body is extremely sensitive, and it is becoming increasingly so, which means, oh dear, feelings are going to become stronger. A good reason to know what to do with them. But it is important to understand that your sensitivities are increasing. At the same time, there is such a bombardment of information and stimulus in the world in which you are living that unless you get away from it, your sensitivity is becoming numbed, not increased. And this is why you are able to view scenes of war, accidents, destruction, and register it, but be able to look at it, hear about it, express how sad it is, but not be devastated by it. Have you not stopped to wonder, my friends, why you are not so devastated by what you can now access and see? This is called desensitization. Of course, your culture calls it information. I want you to consider for a moment that this is not about avoiding such things because you should not see or know about it. But I want you to understand that what passes for entertainment in your world has systematically desensitized you to things that even only 3 decades ago you would have found shocking and devastating. It would have become a real assault upon your being. And this has meant, dear hearts, that anything else in the same frequency, you don't rise in shock toward. Do you understand? So I want you from here forward to become very conscious of this. Start to notice. You don't have to avoid it, but start to notice what is actually happening to you. Because your tolerance for devastation has increased. And if you tolerate it, even just in viewing it, if not experiencing it, then your ability to permit such things is greater, is far, far greater. And you, my dear ones, have the power to change a lot of what is occurring if you are more sensitive to it, if you register more accurately that these things are not right. You will raise your voices. You will, in unison, express your distress, your concern, and your intolerance for it. So yes, if you play war games, you are desensitized. If you watch violence in film, you are desensitized. It becomes entertainment to you. You are accepting it. It's acceptable to watch people die. It's acceptable to see people wounded, murdered. And so what I'm here to tell you is not that you are all wrong and bad. I'm wanting you to start questioning this more and more so that you're able to discern the energy. Because all these news broadcasts that you have in a monotone is a frequency. And the way in which this information is delivered, well, it could be the weather forecast. Correct, dear heart. Correct. Now, why is this a concern? Can you tell? What does it do to you? You feel it. And you need your feelings. You need to be able to feel the world in which you live in order to understand it, in order to function fully as human beings, but also, and here's the quandary, as some of you are awakening, it's becoming more devastating to you. Your sensitivities are increasing and are in direct odds with the world medias or entertainments that you are surrounded in. And you start to think, oh, there's something wrong with me. I don't have a stomach, or I'm too sensitive. I don't like it. When everybody else is able to watch or engage. Your sensitivities are increasing because as humanity's consciousness is rising and awakening, you and your sensitivity grows. And this is what allows you to discern higher frequencies of consciousness and therefore access information, answers that are going to make a difference to your world and help change it for the better. In other words, to combat lower energetic frequency. So a lot of the news media, a lot of the entertainment is of a lower frequency. Do you get it? All right. So in this regard, again, it's very, very important to register the impact it has upon you. If you don't register more than a moment's discomfort at death, violent acts upon others, you have become immune. It is a form of acceptance, indoctrination, that means it's not a threat to you anymore. So even your basic human instinct to survive, the fight or flight energy inside of you is dulled. Now just take a moment to register the implication, the compliance that this perhaps trains you to accept. This is very, very important. So if these kinds of things are not a threat to you, and yet you're told that other things are, and increasingly you're going to be told that other things are a greater threat, then really you're going to accept all manner of means in order to protect yourselves, to contain things, and basically be willing to tolerate more security, less freedom, and violence to protect. So again, I'm telling you this because I want you to understand, if you just accept all of this without question and you don't have the capacity to register energy that is an assault upon your soul, then my dear hearts, how can you change the consciousness of humanity to one of peace? You are going to have perpetual war, which has been a cycle for humanity for a very long time. And it's not that you are particularly focused toward wanting war, but your acceptance of it, or your acceptance of the reasons and the necessity for it, are going to be compliant. And this has happened every war that has ever occurred in human history. Now, I'm sure you know that it is never the populations that orchestrate or organize war, correct? It comes from the top. It's very important, again, to realize you don't really want to go out and kill each other, do you? All right. So the new consciousness is really one that is saying, I would rather get on with everyone. I really don't want to pick up a weapon and kill or maim someone else, although many of you practice at it on a screen, right? So it's very important to realize that in this regard, and I know I'm going to make a few people uncomfortable, but it's very important to realize that in this regard, what you might justify as entertainment, again, is a form of programming. So you are programmed to accept levels of violence. Now, why should this be? Why should this be? At this particular time, all the signs are leading toward another showdown. And it is very, very important to recognize that in your world, there have always been factions of those who rule, who war with each other. And they send their populations against each other in order to gain control over territory, to gain control over resources, but also to gain control over consciousness. Now, your consciousness is the prize. And I know this is going to be a little bit of a stretch for many of you to consider. How could my consciousness be a prize? If you think for yourself, if you are a free thinker, are you very popular? Do you think? If you speak against the general tide, how popular are you? Not very popular. So it's better not to speak out, to go against the current stream of thinking. And it is very, very important to realize there is so much told to you about what is acceptable, how you should live, what you should want, what you should crave for, and the different ideologies within that will tell you, if you believe this, you are right. If you believe that, you are wrong. So it means that everywhere in mainly Western civilizations, the different belief systems, cultures, even down to what you consider is good food, is all generated not just by geography and where you live and the current resources, but is generated by the conditions that you are taught to accept. So now I want you to consider the implications of this, my friends, around the entire world that you live in, and here in your country, and you might consider you're just a relatively small country, what are the conditions you are taught to accept? Again, take a moment for this. Now, this is, of course, a very big subject, and I cannot go into it in entire depth because there's a number of things I want to talk to you about tonight. But it is important to realize that as you reflect on where you live, on what you are taught to accept, that you also consider why. Why? Because if you believe collectively in something, there is an energy generated from this, correct? Now that is the reason you are important. Not just because you can be pitched with the right information, or you might call it propaganda, against other very loving human beings who have families, children, and want to protect their lands as much as you do. Except that, like you, they've been told your way of thinking, your way of living is wrong, is different, is not compatible, that there's no agreement that says we can see the common ground, we are all human beings, we are all souls inhabiting a body together. No unity possible, division usually, always. And even when there have been agreements, it is because the things you all believe the most are more compatible than the things you don't agree on. Yes, dear heart.
So our consciousness is a resource.
Yes. Correct. Correct. So I want you to really start to think about this. Consciousness. You are conscious. Now what happens if you are awakening? Your consciousness is doing what?
It's breaking free.
It's waking up, it's breaking free. You're beginning to think for yourselves together.
You're becoming yourself.
Correct. Yes. So it has been called waking up, not staying asleep. But it's very important to understand, if your consciousness becomes self-aware, you begin to question. And if you begin to question, then you begin to identify good energy, not so good energy. You begin to become discerning, making choices. And the more of you who do that creates a wave of consciousness that is not accepting of what you've been taught, that begins to challenge this authority. And this authority wants you to listen to what you are told to know, to believe, without question, because then your consciousness can be directed. Your consciousness will accept, without question, in many cases, that something is true. Now, I'm sure you can imagine a few examples yourselves. And it's even more powerful if many of you believe something, even if it is untrue, because that is an energy, right? So your consciousness is an energy, a resource. And that's why you are very, very important on this planet, because you create energy. Energy that, when guided and directed, can be utilized. And why? Because energy is everything. Energy in the universe creates life. Energy in the universe is existence itself. And it can be guided, directed, molded. So you are now starting to learn that you have a consciousness that is important, valued. It's time to value your own consciousness, your own ability to think, to feel, to experience. And you have a sovereign right, my friends, as souls, to determine this for yourselves. You can be entirely entrusted with this world when your heart is awakened to your consciousness. Again, this is very, very important. This consciousness, as it awakens, is beginning to become aware of itself in its collective energy. And when it is a collective energy, it is powerful, particularly if it is aware, if it is awake. It is a force to be reckoned with. And this happens throughout this universe, that there is a point in evolving consciousness where the self-realization of the soul incarnate gets to become a sovereign entity, a powerful being, a powerful presence that cannot be influenced by an outside source. So the more of you that wake up, the less controllable you are. This is desirable, dear ones, believe me. You want to be a sovereign being together. This is vital. Now, in the universe, the law of attraction means like attracts like. As you awaken, your energy in union with others comes together and therefore creates. And this is how you get to create a new world. Together, you begin to realize and therefore imagine and feel, but also you're able to support each other in the consciousness that you are growing into. You and your ability to communicate with each other, to inspire, to guide one another, to draw from the pool of wisdom in this consciousness is unlimited. An unlimited consciousness, because this allows you to tap into the resource of this universe. Now, just imagine how much freedom and power you will truly have if you are able to do that. Yes? All right. So this is important. It is desirable. Now come back to what I told you about why you are bombarded by so much imagery, information, sensory stimulation to keep you quiet, asleep, non-questioning, accepting, fearful, anxious and worried, so that you will do anything not to feel too much. You will take antidepressants, you will take alcohol, you will take drugs, you will have foods that will keep your systems from expanding, from growing. And it is very important to understand that this is where genetically modified foods are important, because these are foods, dear hearts, that are not just designed, as you've been told, to withstand drought and rain and insects. These are foods that little by little affect the way in which your cells are able to renew themselves in your bodies. Your cells are conductors of energy. Now, again, come back to consciousness and how important your energy is in a state of consciousness, and you'll start to realize just how important your body is for generating and conducting energy, right?
So our body literally is the battery that allows
nicely put,
energy
yes,
to permeate into the world. So
correct.
Raman, there's been a collective, like a collective attack on keeping our consciousness and our energy asleep.
Yes.
And this is why when people start waking up and they start looking at, say, fluoride, and they start looking at geoengineering and chemtrails, and they start looking at GMOs, and they start looking at heart technology and all those things that are out there, it's actually, and pharmaceuticals and big pharma and all those things, and the modification of wheat and carbohydrate intake that sort of keeps us asleep. It's actually all part of keeping it quiet, keeping it down.
It is all interacted, yes.
It's not a single thing, it's actually all of these levels are being looked at.
Correct, dear hearts,
Because
yes.
they realise how important it is to them that we stay asleep.
Correct. So it is very, very
Who's they?
important. I'll get to that. It is very, very important to understand everything is related. There is nothing separate. You think you're separate from each other? You need each other. You are conductors of energy to each other. You're generating energy. Do you not feel the energy of others? Do you not know if someone feels sad or someone is feeling loving? Of course you do. You do not exist separate from each other or this world, this environment in which you live. You are absolutely reliant upon it. Now, take a pristine forest with beautiful water flowing in the middle of it and birds singing in the trees and the sunlight dappling the leaves. And it's warm and there are movements of animals nearby, the air is clean and smells sweet. How do you feel? You feel good. Your energy balances inside, everything is charged, you have a little extra physical energy to do things with. then imagine you go to somewhere that you cannot drink the water, and the leaves are dropping too soon, and there's not much bird song. There's been felling of the forest, poisoning of the animals, bait lying around everywhere. The sky, well, it's grey, and in fact the air just doesn't fill you up. And note how you feel. Be aware of the areas of your world that are becoming polluted, that just don't support your life, your physicality. Realize the impact this has upon your energy, my friends. The impact this has upon your very being. This is vital for you to register. Yes, you participate in living a very industrial life, and you have all manner of technology, but you have the smartest forms, well, they're getting smarter, of technology in terms of communications, but you still drive smoking machines. Allow yourself to wonder about that. You're about to have technology, computers, you may call them, but there's a new word, new name coming for those very soon too, that are actually using light. Light. Not batteries. Light.
By 2020, they reckon they'll be here.
Indeed. Think about that. And then think about the technologies of mobility. My goodness.
Last century.
Horse and cart compared to the technology coming. So what does it say? You won't need to go anywhere. You can stay right where you are, and you can have access to all manner of entertainment and not have to engage in the world. So it doesn't matter if your forests are dying and there's no fish left in the sea. You will just have something artificial, something holographic that you can engage in. I want you to question this. Yes, it's going to pop some entertainment bubbles. It's going to cause you to think about the world you're living in, but also I want you to consider the world you want to live in. The world you want to live in from here forward. The world you might like the future to in fact be. Now, because of genetically modified organisms, another technology has emerged and is currently beginning to be released, which is a technology that is equal to the microchip. This is termed nanotechnology. Nanotechnology.
Once again, Raman, we're being prepared for this by mainstream movies.
Correct, yes you are. And it is very important to realize that you will be told this will be the miracle cure. The cure for all. I want you to understand that in order for more energy to be created, you can be changed. You can be transformed to generate another level, another frequency of energy. And it is very important to understand the term transhumanism, because in understanding this, you're going to start to recognize that you will be sold all manner of reasons why your human body is frail and is not up to spec and could be improved upon. So you've already had these messages. You should improve your appearance. You should not look old. And you should be able to still run a marathon at 60 years of age, etc. And I'm not suggesting that anyone who does is superhuman, but it is very important to understand you are about to have messages coming to you that tells you your joints should not wear out, etc. They have the cure for the problem that has been created. If you simply ate clean, whole food, your human body has its own ability to generate, be healthy and well within the states of human consciousness allowed to grow and evolve and absolutely be transformed as you raise your consciousness. But instead, you're eating food that is interrupting your cells' communications, because the cells in your tissues are communicating all the time. And when these messages are interrupted, diseases are created. Now, you have food that is artificial. You have chemicals you are ingesting. And you have accepted this. This is normal. You eat food-like products. Really. When I lived, my goodness, a food-like product would be like being told it's all right to eat a pebble. Goodness me. You eat food that is artificial. It even says so on the label. And you're quite happy with that. Really? Yes, dear.
So the organic food and biodynamic foods that are available to us, are they clean enough for the environments that they grow in and the water that is put on them to sustain our body?
Yes, they are, dear heart, considering it is the best you can get at this time. You have to live within the best you can. So what I want you to understand is that there are answers to combat all of this, and I'm going to come to that. But it is very important to understand what you have accepted, dear hearts, in this world is not natural to your system. It's not easily assimilated. The body has to adjust to process. So I know it's very important for you to become more conscious of this. Don't ingest something that is artificial, that is food-like. You cannot expect to have energy and good health. You cannot expect to live disease-free. You have enough to combat just in the environment you are living in. The fact that you have plastics that are giving off fumes, the fact that you have electrics that also interrupt your body's own energy systems, the fact that you're living in pollution all the time. I'm not here to be the bearer of bad news. I'm simply here to remind you of why you chose to incarnate this time, why you chose to come and help to turn things back toward the journey humanity's consciousness is truly on, to awaken from the acceptance, to awaken from the dream, if you like, that is common modern life. Yes, dear heart.
As we turn to value our consciousness, so then what you're saying, we'll have the ability to discern the energy and how we support
That is correct.
our lives on a daily basis, that everything we ingest or engage with and ingest
Yes.
right oneself to our whole being and how we interact conscious to shift it. Is that right?
Correct, yes it is. This is true. So it's very important to understand you have the ability to do this. Very, very important. But what is not compatible with such an ability is any food-like substance that can survive on a shelf for months at a time.
Even foods that we're used to that we think of as foods, there are some that aren't actually foods, like sugar, for example. That we take that for granted so much, and when you look at all the foods in the supermarket shelves, even in some of the organic products, there's sugar in them.
Dear heart, yes, sugar has a particularly interesting effect on the biosphere of the body. Sugar itself, as a form of energy, of dense energy, overstimulates the human system. It immediately creates glucose saturation in the muscles. Oversaturation creates inflammation. Inflammation in the body goes on to create a lot of different diseases. So it's very important to understand, and that's just one part of it. Sugar itself, of course, is derived from a plant, refined, and then added into many products, again simply because it's a way of slowing down the generation of energy in the body, although initially it burns very quickly and can give an elevation, if you like, through the saturation. But the negative effect of it is to slow the energy down in the body. So if you eat a lot of sugar, you're not going to have very high energy.
Even in some of the savoury foods, there's sugar.
Correct. Yes, indeed.
So is this part of...
Well, it is part of making food that shouldn't last as long as it does palatable. It's part of that, but it's also a part of the dulling down of your energy. So that's very important to understand. Now, if you want good energy, you have to eat good energy. Pure and simple. It's not negotiable. And there is plenty of good, pure energy sources in this world. But again, I want to encourage you to understand that new technologies in areas of food and health are going to start popping up very, very soon. I've watched their press releases actually being written. So I want you to understand that in this place, and they're not going to be happy with me at all, but in this place at this time, it is very important that you exercise choice. You have the choice. You are the one who puts it into your body. And so you're going to have to be willing to change some habits, to begin to think and question and not see that that's a discomfort or a disruption to your life, but to see, dear ones, that this is actually your life that you are engaging in. Yes, it might feel like it's a distraction from the lull that you've accepted is life. The comfort of not feeling too much. But you need to feel. And the feelings you do have are not to be controlled by your mind, are to be listened to. Because this is how you access the energy within your consciousness that guides and informs you. That actually taps you into the source of energy in consciousness. The divine source as much as the human source. So you have a collective consciousness, and you are all impacted by this constantly. You all move like a school of fish or a flock of birds. Believe it or not, you are not so different.
Raman,
Yes, dear heart.
just because you stressed so much the importance of diet, is that can you give some right? Is that like a raw diet? Is it dairy-free, carbohydrate-free? Is it like, what are cooked vegetables versus... Yeah.
All right, all right. The least you do to something, the more energy it has. But if you want a golden rule, nothing artificial. That's the golden rule. It's up to you how much carbohydrate you need. If your body has been saturated with sugar, you need much less carbohydrate. And if you want to reset your body, you have to detoxify from the carbohydrate, from the sugar, from the over-processed chemicals you've been ingesting. You have to flush and cleanse your body to get back to a normal place. And guess what? When you start to do that, my friends, is it comfortable? Do you have addictions? Does your body complain? Now, if this was good food, would you have aches and pains and feel unwell? So again, common sense comes down to keep it natural, not artificial. Don't drink, eat anything that is not naturally derived. This is very, very important. And yes, even some naturally derived flavors, etc., have a rather nasty sauce that once you knew where it really came from, the gland of an animal or something, you might even think twice about it. But if it is natural, then at least you're not ingesting chemicals.
Raman,
Yes, dear heart.
you've mentioned quite a huge amount of, I suppose it's like negative, really, the impact and what we deal with every day. Is there anything that will occur that will support our consciousness?
Correct.
Significantly going to...
Absolutely, definitely. And again, I'm heading that way. There's quite a lot, dear hearts, that I want you to comprehend about the reality you're existing in. Why? Because I want you to understand how it is created. How did you get here in such a short space of time? Have you not wondered? In the past century, how you went from a relatively slow pace of life to the pace you have now, to the artificial, technological time, and why the hurry? So all of this is important to ask yourselves. You've moved further away from nature, not closer to it. What is nature? That which is within you, that which is natural to your being and to your consciousness. So in the past century, much of the world has progressed to this point. And yes, you might say it's an advantage to push a button and something happens. Less effort on your behalf, more time to sit about and just watch things. Yes, absolutely. Why engage in life when you can push a few buttons and then sit down and do nothing? Indeed. So in this world in which you are living, you have the opportunity to begin to comprehend, but most important, to keep questioning what is happening in your world. So, of course, I've mentioned to you that those who rule this world are coming to a point once again of having a bit of a battle with each other for supremacy. And they have no qualms whatsoever at, in fact, pitching their populations against their opponents' populations. That's you. Now, because there is even greater technological weaponry, they don't need quite as many of you to go to battle, but they can actually annihilate more of you. So the tables have turned dramatically in the past century. in terms of warfare. Think about it. More soldiers went to battle and died than civilians. Now, less soldiers die in battle, but more civilians die. The tables have turned. Why? It's very important to understand, and yes, I know this is all very depressing, but it is important you understand because this is happening now in your world. And it's progressing at a very rapid rate. What you need to realize is that if you know about this, and to a degree you've all been desensitized, so it's easier to tell you now, ironically, is that because of these battles that are really starting to progress to position ideas, information, you are actually being prepared. You're being confused, you're being given one perspective, another perspective. You have more information now that it's so difficult for you to know what is the truth. And it's very important to understand your consciousness is right now being prepared to accept a particular view, so that you will support justifications to regain control and predominance over consciousness on this planet. There is a battle not just for your soul, but for your consciousness, for the energy that it generates. Now, I know this can start to sound like very interesting, maybe science fiction, but it is very important for you to consider this. And then start to realize that in the positioning of this, those who battle it out like to do so every now and then, particularly because the populations on your planet have grown very large. And they've done so, and every now and then there will be many battles to reduce population. And you might say, well, Raman, it doesn't make sense, because if consciousness is a prize and energy of that consciousness is important, then you would want more, not less. Remember, the current agenda is to change your biology so that actually less is more. So in this regard, you will expect in the next coming weeks to see and hear things that will perhaps alarm you. And this is not to be preparing to become afraid. This is very important. I want to sow the seed in your consciousness so that as things unfold, you will remember my words and not get lost in it. And this is a very important message, because there is a lot that you can do about this. When you feel empowered to question, and I'm happy even for you to question what I am saying, when you have the power to question and to trust the part of you that questions, you're going to get more information, more than is just presented to you, told to you, shown to you. You're going to rise up collectively in your awakening and not just accept the ultimatums given to you. That you are just expected, in fact, to accept and go along with the silent majority of acquiescence. It's important you're not silent. Yes, If you rise up collectively together, you may find your freedoms limited. Don't be afraid of that. You might find as you speak out, you will get more information that causes you to be concerned and feel powerless. Don't believe all of it. Allow yourselves to continue to question. As you all rise up in this period, there is a moderator within you. The moderator, the seat of your soul, is your heart. The love within you, within your consciousness. This energy is so powerful that it radiates creation. They are anti-creation. They like to modify and doctor everything. Creation just likes to birth life, to nurture life, to absolutely nourish everything that lives in order and balance. And that's what you truly are part of. I want you to take a moment to feel it, to realize in your own heart, you have the ability, dear hearts, to turn this around by guiding and directing your own consciousness. Feeling the moderator. This is the part of you that knows whether it's right or wrong. You have other expressions about truth or not, yes? Rather interesting ones. So it's very important to measure everything here in the heart, the greatest possible moderator. And in this moderator, you're going to emerge clear, conscious, which means you will see more clearly, you will understand more clearly, and you will not be affected. You will not be affected, and you can be a voice to help others also to become more awake, more aware. This is not to say that you should get your own soapbox, but it is important to allow yourselves to recognize the opportunities, to share what you know, to begin talking with each other about your consciousness, and remembering why you wanted to come here to assist human consciousness to grow and evolve. Because yes, the shift is happening, and yes, you have a choice to engage or not, but this is what you chose to do by being born now at this time. To awaken is to not accept everything that you've learned, to begin to re-examine and question everything. I'm not suggesting you should resist all technology and all medical advancements. What I am suggesting is that you use discernment, that you don't act from fear, and that you do, in your awakening, notice that this will cause you to feel some alarm. It may cause you to feel some concern about this world. That is what awakening is all about. When you wake up and realize you've been asleep, accepting, living your life, eating artificial food, losing your energy, and not really existing. Yes, you should be alarmed about that. And yes, you should feel a little bit afraid. You're going to need a little bit of adrenaline to get you moving. So it is very important to recognize that collectively you can help each other. Collectively, your consciousness works together to support one another, to share the energy. It is a moderator of its own, this sharing of energy. And as you start owning this energy, you become a force, a real, true light. Because that is ultimately what you're going to move toward, is becoming a light source. A light source that contributes to and is part of the universal consciousness. But you're barely aware of that universal consciousness when you are bombarded in consciousness control and pollution.
Raman,
Yes, dear heart.
when you're talking with the technology, I have a question with our younger generation who gets so easily caught up with the pace of what it is. And although I can monitor what happens in my house, I can't monitor what happens outside.
Of course.
So my question is, how do we support our younger generation who are really drawn to that form of
Yes,
technology?
of course. Now, one of the first things I'm going to say to you is that the younger generation adapt, respond to, and know how to operate these technologies very easily simply because their consciousness works much faster than yours. Their consciousness is really already part of the shift, part of that light. So for them, quick is good, right? Quick is very, very good. And if it's slow, it's too slow. So their consciousness is already moving at a much faster rate than yours, even though they too register the speed of time currently. Now, the speed of time is the indication that your dimensional shift is already occurring. Now, it is very important to understand, so therefore these young generations respond to technology because they want to be able to operate their consciousness for the purpose that it is designed to evolve into. And they're currently the bridge. So a lot of these technologies are deliberately designed to engage fast consciousness, even light consciousness. So guide them well. Monitor as much as you can. Keep talking to your children about questioning what they're doing and why. Because their most immediate acceptance is simply because they're hungry for a much faster form of communication, which is much more about consciousness than it is about technology, but also that you're helping them to recognize their own awareness. And the more they awaken to this, the more they're going to know how to also access this very same feeling they get in the technologies in the natural environments, because nature also is very much quicker. Now, you might also start to recall that for some time now there has been talk about human consciousness and communications such as telepathy. So the kind of consciousness that the young engage with in technology is the beginning stages of human telepathy development. All right? So good question, dear heart. It's very important to understand, as parents, you can guide this. You can guide your children to retain their connection to self and use discernment in the technologies.
So in that process, Raman, you're learning the language of the light, or what consciousness
Correct.
needs to be.
Yes, what consciousness truly is. Yes, indeed. Because consciousness is not just a great storehouse of information and knowledge, it is communication, and it is in fact the way in which the universe communicates. So to learn to communicate in different frequencies is a part of what you are learning. So some of the technologies are not necessarily bad, but the way in which they are engaged and the information that is engaged with is not necessarily helping this evolvement.
Isn't it just the remembering? Because some of us have done it maybe with Lemuria.
There is a part of the
Atlantis.
remembering. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, dear heart. Lemuria, Atlantis, yes, indeed, Mu. A lot of these cultures, these ancient civilizations, yes, they have all had their time. It is very important to understand that often they got to a point that humanity now is reaching.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Indeed. And that is also simply because that has been the process that has been manipulated on this planet before. So who are they? All right, who are they? They are currently known as words like elite, Illuminati. They are those whom are very different levels, if you like, of authority on your planet. So you have governments. Your governments work for those who are called elite, who are what you might term hybrid humans. And these hybrid humans are actually very much in the service of their masters. And their masters on this planet are not human. They are what you would term alien. They are those whom created you.
They're the unknown.
Indeed.
And
Indeed. So this is not just a fancy conspiracy therapy. Yes, indeed.
We may need that after this.
All right. And it's not just a theory. So it is very important to understand very, very soon on this planet, the truth about religion is going to emerge. The truth about your origin is going to emerge. Have you not wondered how Eve was made from Adam's rib? All right.
Splicing, wasn't it?
Correct.
Genetic splicing.
So it is very important to understand, my dear ones, you're about to start to understand the codes of your DNA. Your DNA that carries consciousness. And consciousness looks like the strands of DNA. And at the moment in your evolvement, these lights on each strand of DNA are being lit up. Little by little. Every time you wake up, more are lighting up inside. And in this process, those whom control your world, your planet, and like to try to control your consciousness are not at all pleased that you are waking up. Now, I gave you an indication not so very long ago, well, at least in my reckoning, that the percentage of those awakening on your planet was at about 42.8%, yes? You're now at 49.2.
Wow.
You're about to reach a tipping point. This is very important. Of course, recent events this year have helped a lot. The propaganda is backfiring. So it is very important to understand 49.2% means you're almost half awake.
Ryan,
Yes.
can I ask a question? If, like, with our creators, what is their intention, or why is their intention towards destruction of their own creation as well?
Because, dear heart, if you're harvesting energy, you don't want independence of what you are harvesting. You want to contain and control the energy that you are drawing.
Just like the Matrix.
Just like the Matrix.
You could say so, my dear heart. You could say so.
Raman,
A lot of these sources that come into your entertainment are not just coincidental. Yes, dear heart.
Are we like a food source to them? What do they, the energy that they harvest from us, what do they use it or direct it towards?
Well, it is appropriate to consider that your energy is what you might term similar to food. Yes, you could say so. It enhances their own consciousness. Because they are creators, they like to create and they need energy to do so.
Is it all from Raman?
Not everyone, that is correct. Those whom are here currently and have been here for quite some time are very much engaged in the creation process. There is about to be an arrival of those whom are actually on your side, who agree that within the universe you are permitted to reach your sovereignty, your coming of age, and be supported to be able to do so. And of course, this has been supported for some time, but it's not going to be so very, very long when you're going to start noticing more reports of craft entering your atmosphere. And this is not going to be an invasion, and I do want to warn you all, you're going to hear some more, what I believe you are coining quite accurately, false flag alarms, that there is cause to have an alarm about what is happening. And I want you to understand this is not an invasion. So do not believe reports that tell you there could be.
So that would suggest, Raman, that the Star Wars battle that's been going on sort of outside of our dimension is swinging in our favour.
Dear one, what I want you to understand is that there are quite a number of consciousnesses on your side. So this is not all doom and gloom, but you have to know the picture in order to understand why it's important.
Can I ask, when you said we were created by them,
Yes, dear heart.
what do you mean?
Your physical vehicle was created.
Right.
Indeed.
Okay.
And when these visitors come, how are they going to engage us? How do they engage us so that we understand, I guess, so that we align our
All right. Well, let me simply say, because there are limits to which I'm permitted to reveal just at this point, is that the best form of engagement is through consciousness. So if you are receptive, if you are clear, connected in your consciousness, you're going to know they are coming. You're going to know it. You're going to have dreams. You're going to have forms of communication in your consciousness that will tell you this has begun. Yes, it will become visible, but it will be consciousness first.
Raman, those lights that we saw a wee while ago,
Yes, dear
were
heart.
they the we?
Yes, it was.
It was such an honour to feel their presence in that way.
Indeed.
If we have more of that,
Very
I'm
much
looking
more.
forward to it.
Of course.
A race that Raman talked about in his intergalactic evening called the We, and Raman might like to talk a little bit more about
Well,
them.
these are currently guardians of your planet, because your planet also generates energy and consciousness, And this is really under duress currently. So this race of souls have been arriving for a while now, a little more visible than before, in trying to support and contain the way in which energy is moving and vibrating on your planet. So you will have heard about magnetic lines around your planet, yes? Some of your navigational systems work upon this. So this is the energy, the consciousness of your planet. And everything in your planet has a consciousness. It has a form, a level of energy that you can be a part of and engage in. And it is communicating all the time. So because your Earth, in all of these fields of energy, began communicating a distress, it called other races to come to help. So your planet speaks. Do you hear her? Mm-hmm. Do you listen to her? Because she's communicating all the time. And yes, she is referred to in the feminine because she births life constantly. And she nourishes you. She is like your mother. So it is very important to understand this very basic principle of creation is in fact throughout the universe honored, revered even. No, they don't all make a religion out of it, but it is very, very much a part of the consciousness.
She's the only planet that has that.
Not the only, but it is a very important one.
Raman, there's a question down here. Yeah.
Yes, dear.
I was just wanting to know, like you say that we're from, we're being physically come from some sort of consciousness. Is that from a soul consciousness that the earthlings, perhaps you're saying, come from that and not like a whole consciousness?
All right. You, as a race of human consciousness, are a part of a consciousness that exists within your universe. And as such, you come to engage in this earth for lifetimes, for your own growth and evolvement. And you've all known when you've come to this incarnation at this time that it is a very important period of human evolution. You have the opportunity to really realize your own divine nature and to begin to contribute to the consciousness of the universe, which contributes to the creation of your universe. You see, the universe wasn't just created and there it is. It's constantly being created. It's constantly growing and expanding, and it is unlimited in all of its beauty. So, you were created, or the vehicle on this planet that you live in was created. And you could say, well, that's all great, that's wonderful, I have a body, I can live my own life and simply evolve at my own pace. And yes, ideally this would be so. And it was, in fact, originally intended to be so, as a contribution to the universe. Along with your planet and everything within the ecosystem that is related to each other, part of it. You might have noticed your body's not so unique. Parts of it are in plants and animals, yes? Mm-hmm. All replicated in one form or another. So why was it originally? Because your planet gives off an energy which also contributes to the consciousness of the universe. So there are microcosms and macrocosms, and yes, I'm going to be careful, I might blow a few fuses, but it's very important for you to understand that your planet within the consciousness is magnetically, energetically responsible for a balance also. You are a part of that contribution. Yes.
human consciousness, and then we have the galactic consciousness of the Palladians, the Thetans, and other
Correct.
sources of consciousness.
Yes.
So how does that play into what we're about to experience?
All right. That has occurred because there's many consciousness in the universe who have wanted to contribute to the raising of consciousness on this planet. Because as the consciousness raises on this planet, the planet itself evolves and takes a very important place in the raising of creation. So within this, it's very important to realize that now, because many of you are also bringing energy that grows and adapts very quickly and is able to withstand the kind of programming you've all been subjected to. So Palladian, Syrian, Thetan consciousness, for instance, already operates at a very quick rate of consciousness. And that means, of course, that it's not so difficult to wake up. So that's very, very different. There are human beings on this planet who get trapped very quickly, very easily by the physical trappings of the world in which they exist. And it's very difficult for them to awaken. And in fact, some vehemently resist it. They are frightened by it, and they want to believe they will be looked after, taken care of, that everything is all right, and they want to hold on to the physical, tangible security of the world around them. So removed are they from their own consciousness.
So those of us on this planet, those of us in this room, are somewhat privileged, because we've either come from these other systems, or we've lived in this system for long enough to reach our current state of consciousness, and we have to be a little bit understanding that others won't quite keep up with us.
Correct. This is true, dear Had. It's also very important to understand that most of you, at some stage in your consciousness, whether you were very deliberate about it or not, began the waking up process some time ago, by engaging in your personal or spiritual growth. All right? You began to be interested in being more than you were, in opening up to and discovering more about yourselves. So of course the difference now is that you're moving from the singular I, which was almost a religion in itself, was it not? To now the we. The we consciousness. Yes, dear Had.
Just before we move on, I've just got a couple of questions about what we've just been talking about. With the hybrid humans that have been working with the elite,
Yes.
so the part of my consciousness that has met them, is that why when I connect with the little girl that had those experiences, the first thing she wants to say so loudly is, there were humans there?
Of course, dear Had. Of course. But it is very important to realize that in your little girl consciousness, you felt powerless.
It really hurt.
Of course. Yet, as you continue to awaken and strengthen yourself, you will not feel without power.
I'm gaining that. Another question
Yes.
I just have very strongly is, because I'm aware there are a lot of people that have the same experience as me, what did they actually do with our DNA and the reproductive parts of us that they were looking at and connecting with?
Well, dear Had, this analogy has been used often in your world, so you will understand what I'm going to say. Some of this was used for research purpose. And others, of course, were simply looking to see how you were responding to the environment changes that you were living in. Some of this was also about what could be done to slow the evolution down.
So is that why that vaccinations affected me so much, because the feeling I've had is that there was like a real knowing of how to, like with that information, then what they were able to do with the vaccinations to really have that punch that they were looking for.
That is part of it, yes it is. Dear heart, human beings have often acted like their creators. And therefore, sometimes you think nothing of having different species in cages for research purposes. So what is traumatic to you is traumatic to the consciousness, and I'm not dismissing, dear one, your feelings or your experience. But I want you all to understand there's been a certain acceptance of this until it happens to you, right? And so as it starts happening to you and you recognize it and you begin to awaken, then you're going to be able to do something to change it.
It's such a crazy irony, like the joke is really on us because we believe we're at the top of the food chain.
Correct.
And it's like kind of leaving primary school and entering high school and realizing we're just at the bottom again.
Indeed, indeed. The only way to rise is through the consciousness of the heart, the moderator, the greatest energy in the world. Yes, dear heart.
Raman, can you give us some hope of what's
It has been given throughout the night.
of when we start to tip and we move into the full awakening, what that will really look like on this beloved earth.
All right. This is not going to sound like hope. Simply because when you reach that 50% tipping point, things are going to start accelerating. The divisions in consciousness will become extreme. The sides will be drawn. And for a little while, that's not going to feel comfortable. It's not going to look very good. All right? So you may not have a lot of hope at that point. The point of hope in it, however, is that that's when the real opportunity for change is. That's where the seeds can be sown, where ironically humanity becomes in consciousness much more susceptible to good seeds. Because the desire to know, to find answers, to solutions, to prayer, humanity opens in such times. Is it not true at the very worst hours you're at your best? You're looking for the answers because you must. That is part of your nature. So it is very important to realize it's not going to feel like a very hopeful time, and I want you to remember it will be. All right? This tipping point is not very far away, dear hearts. It's not very far away. 49.2% of the world's population. Dear ones, you're almost there. Change is happening. You are changing. You are the hope of consciousness. You are the hope for those who are still sleeping. You are the power you need.
I just wanted to insert something there, picking up on what Lisa said about hope. I'm in the middle of reading the most wonderful book called The Hope by Andrew Harvey.
Indeed.
And in fact, I remember Yasmeen recommending this book probably about 4 years ago. And it is all about sacred activism. And it's just the most wonderful, wonderful book if anybody wants to read it. But I want to just say one thing, Raman. Throughout the evening, you've talked about the word accept. We accept, we accept. And I agree with everything you've said about the desensitization. But what I'm struck with, and I'm sure people here would feel the same, is when we watch pictures of the terrible wars, the events just of the last week alone, I don't feel acceptance, I feel powerlessness. And you know, I'm so inspired by this book and I'm so inspired by what you say, and yet at the same time with these horrendous world events, children, women, men, brutally murdered, killed, injured, maimed, and we just see it on our screens all the time. What can we do? I just feel so powerless.
Indeed, dear heart. In what you feel is your powerlessness is the most important key of all. It is a symptom of your disconnection to yourself, and this is not a critique. It is a symptom of humanity's non-awareness of your consciousness. And I mean that in the truest sense. Dear one, when you feel the energy inside of you, of your heart, of the love, the care, the compassion, it is time to engage that energy. Because as you raise your consciousness, as you really let yourself choose to question, to be awake, to be aware, yes, that awareness will hurt. And you will feel despair, concern, because these dear souls are a part of you. You are not separate to them. So in the knowing and the recognition of this, you share the distress. It registers in your cells, in your consciousness. This can stimulate you to realize why it is more important than ever before to choose to engage in love. Now, if all of you, in your distress, awake to opening up, to feeling that collective consciousness that you are all part of, you make the difference not only for those souls in their death and suffering, but dear heart, you make the difference by your consciousness all coming together, a great wave of energy and love to combat those who make the decisions to fire their weapons, to wish to annihilate other human beings, because they are acting on the orders. So again, you are not powerless. You are not ever powerless. Even if you don't physically go to do something, you are not powerless. Turn that feeling inside to where it can be shining the brightest.
We did this before, didn't we, Ryan?
Yes.
Through the global conscious energy.
Correct.
That last time. So this is not another practice.
Yes, it is. Very, very important.
You're referring to Syria when
Yes.
it got really, really
Yeah,
during
it's
World War III.
The conscious
Yes, indeed.
and
Dear ones, even in houses of parliament, governments absolutely, because of the consciousness, did not say yes to war, to join that war without evidence. So questioning saved lives. Yes.
So this is about us engaging in, even though we sit here, we're not over here, that we value our energy and that our engagement in energy has an effect.
It does, and it must, because my dear hearts, what is happening there will affect you also. All right? It affects you energetically, but physically it will affect you. So it's very important to realize you should feel very concerned about what is happening. And yes, it interrupts your lives. I'm sure you would rather have it upset your day and your lives than how it upsets others. So it's very important to realize you can choose to use your energy and be open to how the energy, the consciousness of the universal spirit comes to guide and inspire you toward answers, actions, and solutions.
Sorry, I'm just really stuck on the idea of like the separateness of the entire consciousness that you say is dominating our
Yes.
senses. Like, can you talk about that?
As much as I am permitted, because it's very important to understand that when they're spoken about too much, they tend to know. And I want you to know and understand without drawing down further energy to shut you down. So it's very important to understand that you are very much affected by a consciousness that relies upon your energy source, your light. In fact, the truest form of vampirism. And therefore, if you're unconscious, you can be manipulated, controlled. You can be directed with fear, with anxiety, with distraction. And so this separate consciousness, dear Had, remained here on this planet, in fact, to be guardians to humanity, to look after you, to ensure that you grew and evolved really well. But of course, the temptations, the hungers for energy, for power, and then the competitions absolutely developed to the degree that, well, it was very difficult for them to resist. So what better way to give you occupation, to be busy, to not live out your independence, but to exist to support their need, and therefore to develop many, many forms of control. Every war human beings have ever gone to battle in were generated not by the populations, but by those in control. So it's really important to think about this.
Can they be fixed? Or like, well, you know?
All right. Well, I guess you could say being fixed would be one way of saying it. What is likely to occur, dear Had, is that they will be relieved of their position. And, well, I'll leave you to interpret that.
Isn't that an inevitable outcome? As the yin gets stronger,
Yes.
the yang is going to have a rearguard action.
Absolutely, my
So in
friend.
many ways, as things get better, we can expect that this destruction is an inevitability and not to get caught in it.
Correct.
True?
True, but I would also say to you, do not expect that they will go quietly.
Right.
So, again, I am very serious when I say to you there's a fight on, a battle for your soul, a battle for your energy. And to relinquish this will not be done easily, lightly. Now, there's about to be a very big power play shown to you in the world. And this power play means that, yes, you can expect to feel alarmed. I don't want you again to get caught up in the alarm. I want you to remember where you need to turn inside yourselves. I do believe it's good for you at this time to be aware of what is going on in the world. Yes, to see the images and the news reports, but don't take it all at false value.
That's one of your ways of telling the truth is getting the wording a little bit wrong, because it is false. So you're saying at face value, right?
Oh, correct. Correct. Forgive my use of your language.
Well,
But
I
it's
see what you were doing with it.
very, very important to understand that, again, you're going to be stimulated to not be happy at what is occurring, to stimulate you to shake out of where you've been, to choose to live in another way.
So Raman, when you talk about desensitization, I feel like there's really important parallels between the love and the desensitization, in a sense that it's almost like we need to be careful we don't desensitize to love and to the response in our heart. It's not so much about where our attention goes in terms of engaging with the drama, but it is really an engagement of compassion and love where the energy is needed. And that's the desensitization that has occurred.
Yes, dear heart, beautifully said. Very important. Because again, this is your most powerful place. It is a pity it has almost become a cliche, but have you not noticed already, dear hearts, that anything that empowers you is made into cliche?
Yeah. It tries to lose its power.
Correct.
End up losing their meaning.
Correct. And words are everything. They are powerful, which is why I will at times repeat words, so that you understand the energetic message in here. So at this particular point in human history, you have a collective choice. And this collective choice, dear ones, is not something you get to do twice at a certain period of history. It is a choice that comes to stimulate you into action, into personal human action. And you can expect at this particular period from here onward to really start to have memory of your own personal journey. Do not expect to be surprised at how you're suddenly going to really feel why you're here, what your life is all about, and what you really want to achieve this lifetime. Some of these personal realizations are important. It will help you to access memory and energy. It will help you to know what to do. Some very important decisions are going to need to be made individually. It's vital you do not for a moment feel you are insignificant, that there is nothing at all that you can do. This is a time of realizing your own effect. That when you engage in energy that is creative, full of life force, you can impact for the good anywhere at all. Your single prayer makes the difference. Holding those you know are suffering in your heart makes the difference. But if that was all you did without being aware of your consciousness, you would suffer and lose your energy. So this will teach you about balance. This is going to teach you how to engage. And at a certain point, a little bit later in this year, I'm going to talk with you about spiritual battle. This is going to be very important. Simply how to know how to respond and live with a growing energy that will try to slow you down. And again, this is not all negative, but it is very important you are aware that you learn to engage in light. Because every time you choose this, the light comes closer. You start to engage together and you begin to feel your unity.
Raman,
Yes, dear one.
can I ask you a question, please, about light? And I was listening to your last talk that you gave, the light healing.
Yes.
And I got in touch with the energy of my solar plexus, and the colour was a very pale pink. And I wondered about that energy, whether it was just a personal energy for me for healing in that area, or was I connecting with my own soul energy?
Dear one, there was two things occurring. There was a healing needed here. And so this was a very vulnerable place because you'd felt quite disempowered there. But I will also say to you that in the process, you did in fact engage quite consciously with the realization of who you are. It released an energy into your body that in fact continues to this moment. The energy is still there. So this is why you had a better energy and most particularly a better sleep following this. So you can expect this to continue. You will start to notice, dear heart, that in your gentle, conscientious approach to your healing, you are also lifting your energy. And you could say, if you want to speed it up, focus from the moderator of the heart into the collective energy, and you're going to find you won't feel like you're doing it all by yourself. You will feel the support of everyone around you. Now, I just want to give you an example of what I am speaking about. Right now, you are all sitting here together in this space. Yes. And you are all having thoughts and feelings. And I want to encourage you to really consider for a moment the heart and what love feels like. Remembering the heart is the moderator. Feeling what love feels like. Now, even if you all have a dozen different versions of love, you're still focused on love. And in this moment, your consciousness is united in focus. And therefore, there is now more love present here in this room. So give yourself permission to feel it, to receive it, to acknowledge what you create and generate together. Now, if you all like the idea of a unified world where life is restored to balance and harmony, even if you have a dozen different versions of what this means to you, you are lifting consciousness and all others in the world who are awakened right now, that 49.1999% are all starting to get the same message. the wave of love rippled in human consciousness, the whole consciousness. Now, I want you to understand that is the power I am talking about. Yes, even those who are not awake are going to feel it. They're going to feel it. And it will stimulate them. So the more you generate your conscious energy and you become aware that it is energy and you are learning about this energy more and more and the impact, the effect it has, you're going to help to awaken the other souls. All right? You're going to help to awaken that other 58%. And that's going to make a very, very big difference. So, practice, my dear friends. How? Stay connected to yourself as much as you can. Listen to yourself as much as you can. Pay attention to how you feel, to how your energy is. Get to know what enhances and supports it and what detracts from it. Don't close off to what is going on in the world, but question. Reach your own conclusions. Get the facts and the information, if you can find it, and allow yourselves to be open to others who are equally open to discovering truth and energy and most of all love in this world. Realize that every day you will get an opportunity to practice. Every day, every time you engage in others, you are expressing your consciousness and you are communicating to the consciousness of others. The best way to engage, to awaken, to unite is by keeping your energy raised. Now that's not keeping positive. That's keeping your energy lifted in a particular focus. I want you to try to see the best in others. Notice how your energy impacts, what it does. Does it stimulate, open up other souls? Join with those of like mind. You are very powerful when you gather together in a focus of care, love, responsibility for life on this planet. Know that whatever you do together in unison will be more powerful. What you are witnessing when you look at the world in its destructive form is exactly the opposite. Collective negativity being powerful. A collective consciousness willing to kill and annihilate other human beings. So allow yourselves to realize, again, the various ways you can develop this consciousness within yourselves. Again, this is very important for you to be aware of. Now, you also will be guided by very many tangible messages from the divine in this world at this time. So these will be tangible, and you will start to see visible signs everywhere of this. I also want to assure you that those souls whom you have witnessed in their death are not suffering, of course, are in love, are at peace, even when the human journey has been difficult, traumatic, painful, their soul is unharmed. So it's very important you understand the world of spirit is working very hard at this time to assist in the transition of souls in such situations, as always. So do know these souls do not continue to suffer. Those who suffer are those who live disconnected, separate. That is suffering. All right.
Unfortunately, we do need to come to an end, but someone's going to steal the last question. Oh, you go, Steve.
I was just wondering, I was thinking that while we're dealing with all this, are the physical changes going on in the earth going to be supportive of us breaking away from the control of the elite and opening our consciousness?
Good question, dear Hud. Your consciousness has the ability to slow down, if not halt, some of those physical changes on the planet. Of course, eventually it can be reversed. But you will hear increasingly from spiritual teaching the understanding of a new earth. And this is what your new consciousness can begin to create, a new earth. Which means, of course, it's not going to be going backward, it's going forward into a very new consciousness and therefore a very new earth itself. Some of this will be different to what has been known, but the planet has always had an ability to adapt and adjust. And because it is a form of creation, it is living and breathing, it is always going to birth new life, life that is adaptable to and within the environment that it arrives into. So it has always done this over the history of your planet. And therefore, that is why you now have plant species that did not exist even 100,000 years ago. So it's very important to consider the evolution, the planet, and how you are involved in it as you are here. Again, you have a direct impact upon it. If you could see the direct impact you have around you, you would be astounded, my dear hearts. Yes, I know you know about pot plants and your energy effect upon them. If you speak nicely, it grows. If you don't, it doesn't. Now that's a very basic form of an example, but one that is commonly understood in your world. That gives you just a glimpse of the impact of your consciousness upon this planet, of the interplay, of the absolute connection that exists. You want an answer, you want a power, you want to know what to do to change this world for the better. Feel the part of you that is aware, thinking, feeling right now. This is your consciousness. Allow yourself to open up to feeling the consciousness you share with others. This is where you need to go. Let your heart be the filter, the moderator. Choose love and let this energy lift you. Open to the sources of light, stimulating you to awaken and realize this is your power. This is your contribution. This is what you are here to do. So you may not pick up a weapon and go fight, but I assure you this is as much a fight as any. But it is a fight of love. It is a fight with strength and power that has the ability to truly make the difference. And you do. Individually, collectively, together, you make the difference.
I just have one question, can I have?
Salam diha.
And I don't ask because of fear. I'm just asking because I wanted to know. We are talking about 49.2.
Yes.
Is it possible that the elite can lower this percentage by just causing another war?
Dear
Because everybody would be in fear.
Well, of course. Let me say to you, they would like another war. And at that point, where you are at 50% tipping point, you will find that they will generate all manner of disturbance to get you to back down and be afraid. That is why I've said to you, be aware that that is the time you get to choose and you get to sow seeds, you get to own your energy, not because it will be the only thing you will have left, but I will promise you it will be the one thing you will know you can do. And that's very, very important. Now, back in the period of the very First World War, as it has been called, the power of prayer was what was used by the populations to assist in getting that war to come to an end, not just because the absolute misery of those who had to battle made fighting a war almost impossible, but because the prayer really affected change. And that lifted a consciousness that awoke within many. And that was done and born out of love, a love that was very personal toward those who were dying, who were in battle, who were in loss. In that period of time, the consciousness began to shift and awaken. It was only a very small amount, but it was significant. In the Second World War, the shock and awe of nuclear power was the absolute awakening at that point. Far from frightening you all into submission, it woke another significant amount of souls up. So now I want you to ask, what does it have to take? Well, what it is taking, of course, is that it is now time and you are awakened. So yes, you can expect things to cause you to falter, to question, to really feel that you should just look after yourself and those that are closest to you. And this will be one of your greatest spiritual tests. Will you join together in unity to help each other? This will be your biggest test. It will reverberate throughout your consciousness for all time. Did I join in unity to help human consciousness? So I want to invite you to meditate upon it, to feel what you can do, and realize this is by far more powerful, much more powerful than those whom control this world. Realize this is the only way they can control you, and if you awaken, they will struggle. That is the power you have at hand. So, my dear hearts, I do hope you will sleep well. And as such, I invite you, come sit with me in my rose garden so that we can share in the unity of love, that we can come together in consciousness And therefore, when you awaken tomorrow, you will feel a very significant energy of awareness to guide you into your days. My love is with you always. Salam to you, my beloved friends. Alaikum salam.